Hello everyone, I guess hopefully you're having a wonderful day. Today we are back with a Vardorvis guide for old school RuneScape and my renewed endless adventure to make as many guides as possible. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Of course, if you do make sure to leave a like. Helps me, helps the video, helps the channel. Would appreciate it greatly. With that said, let's go ahead and get on into it. So to start, should you kill Vardorvis? I always like to answer this question beforehand, at least give my opinion on the matter. To start, it is amazing profit. We'll talk more about that here in a second, but it is really, really good. And I would also say it's an enjoyable boss fight as well. It could be a bit difficult at the beginning, but ultimately once you start to get the groove of it, it is a very fun boss fight. And so, in my opinion, it's a yes if you're looking at it for money, or if you're an Iron Man that needs the drops here, of course you're going to do it. Worthwhile boss indeed. As far as the hourly rates, you can kill anywhere from 20 to 30 Vardovises, depending on your skill, ability, and gear and all that jazz. Ultimately, that comes out to about 4 to 6 mil an hour, which is pretty solid at this point in the game. As far as it goes for requirements, you're going to need the Desert Treasure 2 quest line to be completed. You probably know that. If you were in the process of killing this, you would have found that out at some point or another. And as far as stats, 90s in your combats would be ideal. I'm sure you can do it with less if you're a advanced gamer, but 90 plus would be ideal, and 70 prayer as well for piety. In terms of the weakness, Vardorvis is weak to melee and in particular slash, and its attack style is melee, more in particular slash. So works both ways. Its max hit can be 40 plus. While it can max pretty high, it also has other attacks that come in at the same time, so you can get comboed out very easily. Let's just put it that way. As far as what to expect drop wise, we have a 1 in 160 rate on elite clues. Actually, all clues are a 1 in 160 rate, so you can get tons of different clues here. The Altor Vestige is a 1 in 1.1k drop essentially. Same goes for the Executioner's Axe Head. And the chromium ingots that you need to be able to create rings are a 1 in 360. As far as Virtus, it's a 1 in 1.1k nearly. To be able to get any piece, it's closer to 1 in 3.3k if you're looking for an individual piece. All in all, it's about 340,000 GP per kill, which again is pretty solid. Looking at the gear options here up on screen are the 3 different choices, on the furthest left being the most advanced of the gear options, and on the furthest right being one of the lesser inopportune gear selections that you could use. Essentially what we're looking for is slash where available. As I mentioned earlier, you're also going to want pretty good defensive stats since you'll be taking a decent bit of damage, and obviously as much melee strength bonus as you can get is going to be helpful. So the best item here is going to be the Soul Reaper Axe. Next up we have the Blade of Salador, and then we have a Tentacle Whip. In addition to that, you could bring a Scythe or an Inquisitor's Mace. This would fill in the gap between the Soul Reaper and then the Blade, but the Scythe and Inquisitor's Mace are both pretty expensive, and you could probably get a Soul Reaper Axe if you really wanted to. So up to you there, but those are the gear selections we have. For the inventory, it's pretty standard for a lot of bossing at this point. First, you're going to need a spec weapon. In this particular instance, I am choosing Dragon Claws since they are the best. Beyond that, in the rest of the inventory, you can see Super Strength, the Cerebrew, Restore. You can bring more brews and restores if you want to. I wouldn't recommend bringing too many though, since you will be eating a lot, so you don't want to have to constantly be drinking your super combats. Beyond that, I have a couple Anglers, some Karambwans for combo eating, and then Sharks. At the bottom of the inventory, that's where it gets a little more spicy. We have Death Runes, a Ring of Shadows, which you get from the Desert Treasure 2 quest, and then we have a Book of the Dead, some House Tellies, and a Rune Pouch. You'll see in the Rune Pouch, we have Fire, Cosmic, Blood, and Soul. Combine that with Death, and you'll be able to cast both Thralls and Death Charge, which is what we're looking for here. We also have some other spec weapon choices, so you could go Voidwaker, Ancient Godsword, Dragon Dagger, or Crystal Halberd. Any of those choices. There are a couple others in there, but primarily that's what you're going to want to use. Now, as far as getting there, for me, a Ring of Shadows, I can use the Stranglewood teleport. Problem here is that to be able to use this teleport, you had to have gotten a drop from Vardorvis. So presumably you can't do this. If you can, congrats. The alternative way of getting here that's going to be accessible to basically everyone is to take this rowboat right over here and get here via that. Now, to get to this rowboat, you're probably going to use the BLS Fairy Ring teleport. So find some sort of fairy ring in your house, wherever it may be, hop on over here, and then you can come straight over to the Stranglewood. From there, you're going to want to run west to this little staircase right here. If for some godforsaken reason you also can't use a fairy ring, you can run south from the mount up here and get there that way. However, Not ideal. Nonetheless, once you make your way on over to the Stranglewood, you're going to want to hit up this entry over here to the northwest. One thing I forgot to add is before you send off on this, you can't eat an anglerfish at the bank, and I typically would recommend that. You can also drink a stamina dose if you think you're going to run around way too much in here. You shouldn't really have to, but if you want to be safe, at least for the beginning, you can go ahead and do that. So before we go ahead and walk in here, I'm going to talk about some of the special attacks so that we can see them before the boss fight actually starts. It can be a bit chaotic, so it's, probably better we do this. Let's go ahead and talk about the special attacks. I have a super mega mouse to go ahead and find our way through the 4 of them. So the first one, and this is going to be the most common and most damaging, is the axe throw. So early on in the fight, Vardorvis will throw 2 axes across the room. Later, it will become 3. Basically, what you want to do is whenever Vardorvis summons the axes, be very cognizant of where they are and where they are going to go. So in this scenario, one is in this corner, it's going to go to the opposite corner, and one is in this side, and it's going to go to the opposite side down here. Now, typically, I would recommend just to go right here. It's a very simple fix. I take the more spicy route, and instead I run over here, avoiding the initial throw of this axe, and then once this axe is gone, I run back over. Typically, where I would recommend you lie throughout a kill would be in the corner, but not too far back in the corner, because if an axe spawns and you're back here, it's going to be difficult. But if you're over here, you can move quickly between maybe this segment, or you can even go to the corners if you'd like. So that's the first special attack. The second one is fairly simple if you've ever done any of the first-person shooter, trainer, clicker type things. Basically, that's what happens here whenever Vardorvis throws her hand or his hand into the ground. I haven't checked the gender. Nonetheless, hand goes into the ground, spikes come up, and you're going to have to click across the screen on, in that scenario, 4 different splotches, but later it becomes higher and higher number. Again, here we have some axes thrown. Typically, whenever axes are thrown, I don't know if this is going to happen here, but it very well might. Vardorvis can spawn in sort of this minion that's going to throw a ranged attack at you. As you can see, there it is right there. It typically pairs up with the axes, especially later in the kill, so be cognizant of that. What you're going to want to do, find an open area of the room. As you can see here, this is going across, this is going across, and this is going across this way. So I'm going to hide down here in the south. In addition, I'm going to pray range, or at least hopefully, if everything works out. I sort of panicked there, but I still get the range up. Vardorvis won't attack you when you're praying range, so don't worry about that. As soon as the range hit hits, then go back to praying melee, as I do there. So that is 3 out of the 4 special attacks now. The final one is one that doesn't really take a lot of strategy to avoid and just sort of, play it by ear. That is this one right here, where basically Vardorvis spawns a bunch of different branches that are going to shoot up out of the ground under you. You're going to have to move, and if it gets later in the kill, you're going to probably have to move twice. So here, I run away. You also have the pairing here of the vine that then comes up, and you're going to have to pray range. Later in the kill, if more of these underground vines are being shot up, you might have to move again out of here, but that's just something to, be wary of. Earlier on in the kill, she'll only throw out a few. Later, he'll throw out a lot more. But that's it for the special attacks. Let's go ahead and get into a kill. So I'm going to go ahead, climb over the rocks if you want. You can set your quick prayers up to melee and piety, and let's go ahead and get started. So heading on in, we're in the ritual site. I'm going to start with the special attack. I usually like to do this just so we can have the spec recharging already. Go ahead, pot up, cast a thrall, and off you go. So special attack, change back to whatever melee weapon you have, and start going to town. Now, I typically like to be in the corners, because in the corners, you can quickly choose where else you want to go. So that one appeared over there and over there. That means we got down here all to ourselves. I pray range to that, go back to praying melee. Again, we're perfectly fine. You want to stay out of the center especially. I don't know if this really counts as a special attack, but Vardorvis also will spawn some stuff underneath you, and you'll have to move around. So here, I'm going to run towards an axe that spawned. That is also something I like to do from time to time, because if you can run behind an axe that's already been thrown, you're going to guarantee yourself a pretty safe spot. So continuing, just hide out in the corner of the room. Once Vardorvis starts to get lower on health, you will start to see the special attacks sort of work in conjunction a bit more. You'll also see a third axe, so that's important. Always keep a close eye on the floor, see what's happening down there. Here we have the entanglements. Go ahead and just click around. Should be fairly simple. I like to keep my HP high here when can. Praying range there, going back to melee. Do keep in mind that whenever the axes are being thrown, typically there's going to be that ranged special attack that you'll need to look out for. They just sort of line up a lot of the time, and it can be very punishing if you're not paying attention. So getting very close to the end, once you have it below, say, 30-40% health, you're going to want to go ahead and cast the death charge to be able to get some extra special attack. Making it look fairly easy here. I will say whenever I started here, it was pretty difficult. I'm going to take an axe here, actually, so we can see a little bit of the bleed damage that it's going to do. It's not terrible, but when you have one axe and then maybe you run into another and then you get hit by the range special, they can very easily sort of cascade into a pretty rough fight. But this one here has been pretty smooth, as you can tell. I'm going to run into the spot that I just left. I do that from time to time just because it's kind of helpful. Here taking a melee hit, but overall not a bad kill. We used 4 food and we're able to get out of there pretty easy. So it's really as easy as that. 2-minute kill there, personal best of 59 seconds. I still have never gotten close to when I got that. I got that fairly early on, but that's Vardorvis for you. I hope this helped you in some way. If it did, do make sure to leave a like. I'd appreciate it greatly. If you enjoy the videos, enjoy the guides, do make sure to subscribe. Would appreciate it greatly. Any thoughts you have, anything you'd like to share, would love to see in a comment down below. But yeah, with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day and peace.